I have said in the past that as I start this booktube, I'm not even on TikTok. What am I talking about? Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Lindsay, and I have said in the past that as I start this booktube journey, I am going to be talking about a lot of past favorites to kind of let myself catch up. And I wanted to do one where I talk about my favorite classic literature books, not including romantics, because I will do a whole separate video on classic romance books, and I'm sure a whole separate video on Jane Austen. So it's not a super long list right now. This is something that I will probably add to later. I've read a lot of the classics that I've read in my adult life. They weren't part of my high school curriculum. It's interesting, I was thinking about this earlier, and I had a lot more reading in my elementary school curriculum than my high school curriculum. And I don't like to talk a lot about my personal life, my past, my even present personal life. So I won't say where I went to high school, but I feel like, just based on that information, you can guess. We read Othello 3 times, and then I read these books as an adult. So I just want to jump right into it. I did a short about this book yesterday, Les Mis. I read this, I think, in 2022. I know it was within the past few years because it's actually one of my best friend's favorite books. And I was a little scared, I'm gonna be honest, because you can see it's very lengthy. I think my copy, yeah, it's almost 1,500 pages, which, you know what? I'm gonna just say right off the bat that I'm gonna keep talking despite this motorcycle that's been going around in circles. It's not as intimidating as it looks. It wasn't that hard to get through. Yes, it can be a bit rambly. Victor Hugo loves to info dump about the Parisian sewer system, about Waterloo, about Parisian history in general. I think Paris was his special interest, the sewer system especially for some reason, and he wanted to tell us all about it because, let's be honest, this man was not neurotypical. But anyway, despite feeling like I was going to lose my mind anytime Victor went, let's take a quick intermission to discuss this topic that was only a little bit related to what we were talking about in the book. There's a chapter called Cosette where she's like briefly mentioned at the end of it. It's mostly about Waterloo, but that's okay. We persisted, we read the book, and I did actually very much enjoy it. As if you've seen the musical, the musical does follow the book decently well. There are definitely some changes. There are some characters in the book that are not in the musical. I'm not going to go too much into detail there. If you want to read it, I don't want to spoil who these new characters are. A lot of relationship dynamics that are different. It is definitely problematic in today's society in many, many ways. You know, I've talked about books with problematic age gaps. Marius and Cosette, you're not gonna be pleased. You're not gonna be happy with the fact that I think he's like 22 and she's like 13 when he first starts developing feelings for her. But it is old literature, and I have said it many times, you can read books with problematic things and not be problematic. So next is La Morte d'Arthur, and again, if there's a glare on any of these books, I've said this in a past video, I have to put my ring light over there just because of the way this room is set up, so it glares on the books. Very sorry. So I'm very intrigued by Arthurian legend. I had read The Once and Future King before reading this, but I found I enjoyed this a bit more. There is something missing in The Once and Future King, or just like, I don't know if it's the way it was written, that I wasn't really vibing with it. This book I enjoyed quite a bit. I'm not quite sure what it is that this one had that didn't, but I will say I know I'm not the only person with this opinion as well, because I've discussed it with other people. There's just something about this book that I enjoyed more. I do like the show BBC Merlin, and I know some of the Arthurian legend purists don't like that show because of the fact that it doesn't follow Arthurian legend that well. However, my main issue with the show compared to Arthurian legend is that the knights in these books are always kissing each other. Like, straight up, they're like, good luck on your journey, and they give each other a kiss. Never happened in the show. It should have happened at least once. At least when Arthur died, spoiler for the show, but like, Merlin should have gotten to kiss him. I just stumbled over that sentence, but I'm very passionate about it. He should have at least gotten to give him a forehead kiss. Because I think straight up they would kiss on the lips too. I'm just saying. That's the biggest thing that BBC Merlin is missing, is the knights don't kiss each other enough. And that's also why you should read this book. So this is a book I couldn't find on my shelf, but it's A Tale of Two Cities, and I think this book was more intimidating to me than even Les Mis, because as I mentioned before, I didn't read a lot of classic lit in high school. I think we read, like I said, Othello 3 times and Lord of the Flies, and that's pretty much all I remember. So I was very, very scared of this, you know, highly talked about classic literature. I didn't feel like I had the intelligence to read that, the experience to just kind of dive into that. I mean, I know people in the literature world have sung the praises of Charles Dickens and how intellectually challenging his books can be. I've seen Christmas Carol, I've seen the best version, aka the Scrooge McDuck version. I know, controversial opinion because everyone likes the Muppet version best. I think that's the second best. I do like it quite a bit, but there's one of the ghosts that looks really like a creepy haunted doll, and it freaks me out. And the Scrooge McDuck version is the version that I grew up on. I do love the Muppets in general. I just want to say, Muppet people, don't come for me. But I've seen Oliver Twist, I've seen, so I do like know Dickensian stories. However, I read it and I feel like it was an ego boost for me because I was able to understand it and comprehend it and take away a message from it, and it wasn't as like, yes, there's a lot of, you know, fanciful language and old language, but I didn't feel like I was really struggling to comprehend it. And so yeah, if you're scared of classic literature, this right here is to let you know you can do it. You can, if you need to slowly ease yourself into it, do it, but it's not something you should be afraid of like I was. It was so much of a, I guess ego boost is the word I've already used, but I suppose just a nice reassurance that it's like, okay, I can do this. I do have at least some intelligence to me. So that's a big reason why this book is on my list, because it was a big hurdle for me. I believe I might have read it actually before Les Mis, and I think that's what kind of gave me that boost to say, okay, I can read classic literature, and it is interesting. Yes, my favorite genre is always going to be fantasy, and especially fantasy romance, but I do still, it makes me want to continue to try out classics. I mean, this book was so moving and it gave interesting commentary, and so I do understand why people praise Charles Dickens the way they do. You know what's really funny is I've just found A Tale of Two Cities on my shelf. So the last book on this list, which I know there are only 4, but that's just all I have right now. It's the first 4 that came to mind, so that's what this video is about. So The Three Musketeers. I'm sure everyone's heard of The Three Musketeers because there's tons of movies. I know there's like a Disney version. I know I've also seen it, but it feels like a fever dream because all I remember is that Mickey, Donald, and Goofy were the Three Musketeers. Cannot tell you anything else that happens in that movie. But if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. It's not just this adventure brotherhood story, which it does have that, and I did really enjoy it. It was very entertaining, and it had social and political commentary, but it also had me on the edge of my seat many times. There were some twists. It ripped my heart out a couple times. I remember texting Jess, because she's read this book, and being like, excuse me, I was not expecting this, and I'm going to cry now. So highly recommended if you like one of those on the edge of your seat books and haven't read it. But that's all I have for right now. So yeah, these are my favorite classic literature books as of right now that aren't including romance, because I would have had a lot more Jane Austen in here if they were, if I was including romance. So yeah, if you like this, please like and subscribe for more book talk content. Why did I say that twice already? Booktube. Again, I'm not even on TikTok. What is wrong? I feel like book talk is just said everywhere. It is, because I see it on the hashtags here. I've used it on the hashtags in my shorts, if I'm being honest. And I see it on, you see book talk everywhere. You can't escape it. I don't even have the app, but you can't escape it. So anyway, like and subscribe for more book content. More specifically, I will be doing mostly fantasy content because that is what I mostly read. I know I have a video coming out this month that's very fantasy focused, and I'm going to try to, I don't think I'll be able to do this every month this year, but almost every month I'm going to try to do like a monthly wrap up, and I'm sure it'll include a lot of fantasy books because my TBR is full of them. So yeah, if you like fantasy, if you like reading in general, obviously I have some videos that are not so much fantasy focused. I say as I hold up Arthurian legend and the Three Musketeers listen, this is not fantasy. This is not fantasy. This is Les Miserables. Obviously I deviate from that sometimes, and because I try all different genres, but yeah, yep. Doing outros is so interesting because I'm like, I just really need to say like, thanks for watching, bye, but for some reason, every single time it comes to that, I'm like, let me just ramble. So that's what you can expect on this channel. Bye!